Hello and welcome, everyone, to our review of the third episode of Cobra Kai. Because Cobra Kai never dies. And neither is this review, it seems. I'm Joe here with me, my co-host Dan.
Hello and greetings.
This episode was so-so. The main crux of the episode is Johnny is training Miguel and starting to get him into better shape by teaching him to swim with his legs, and then using that to propel Miguel into kicking lessons. That said, over at the LaRusso house, not everything is going well. Sam is, well, how to put it, wanting to go to third base with Kyler. Amanda is rather taken with Kyler, almost too much. And she ends up angry that Danny is questioning Sam's choice in boyfriends, and that Danny wants to break the couple up, just saying, I don't like this kid. And Amanda mocks him and says, because you want to believe that karate guy. And Danny gives up arguing because can't argue with crazy. Later, it happens that this is around the time of Halloween, so Danny decides to volunteer to be chaperone. His daughter freaks out because, well, teenager, and she's scheming to go all out with her boyfriend, so to speak. Danny, though, is worried about this and says, no. And admits that he approached the principal, well, sort of. He words it as, and lies that the principal approached him to be a chaperone, so he agreed. And then we see the power dynamics of the family. And in this family, it's all about power. And so Sam turns to Amanda saying, Mom, please. And Amanda then, like, the look in her eyes is one of, wow. Tywin Lannister looked more warmly at Tyrion Lannister in Game of Thrones. Wow. Talk about, that's not the loving look of a wife. And she says, Danny, don't. But the way, and what was it? She says, you really want to do this or something like that? And the look in her eyes is just downright nuts. And I couldn't help but say, wow, Danny broke the one guy rule. Don't stick your
Johnson
into crazy. And apparently Danny's living with the consequences of that. That's the real drama here. And I know someone's going to say, stop bashing Amanda.
Well, she does it to herself.
Yeah, what can we say? She's not a particularly well-written or likable character. And Danny
stands his ground for the first time in 16 years.
Yeah. If I were him, I wouldn't sleep in the same bed as her. I would actually activate security and sleep in a separate room behind a locked door. Because, well, yeah. He goes to the chaperone party where, funnily enough, the principal gets drunk. No, she's drunk. And she mistakenly says that Danny and Allie broke up after high school when Danny was still in high school. But that's a reference to Karate Kid 2 when Danny and Allie broke up at the prom. And Danny did not have a great time. Allie and her new boyfriend kind of screwed up with the brakes. And Allie was apparently cheating on Danny at the time. Pretty dramatic stuff. That said, it all turned out well for Danny, considering Okinawa. And it turned out well for the fans because Karate Kid 2. But this episode ends on a slightly sadder note because, for one thing, Danny kind of gets told that Sam never wants to speak to him again. This in spite of the fact that Danny has fond memories of teaching her karate, Miyagi-Do, and of just sharing precious moments with her. But as he's not been allowed to be a father since she was about 4 and is now a slave, he's kind of struggling with that. And so you have Danny, who's also hurt because, well, he just saved her from the worst mistake of her life. And Kyler makes it very obvious what he was hoping for. And Sam makes it very obvious what she was hoping for. But Danny still feels a little crummy. Amanda's going to judge him later because, well, she's Amanda. Honestly, I actually am starting to think Sid is a much healthier, nicer human being than Amanda. Because this episode is just laden with, well, child alienation.
Amanda's obsessed with her image.
Yeah.
And her husband, Mr. LaRusso, big shot
car guy
who cuts down prices,
has to behave himself. But we also see in this episode how dumb Anthony is. Because,
like, I'll be a ghost.
Ghosts are lame. No, not a literal costume. I'm not going in a costume.
It's essentially, I'll be a fly on the wall. You won't notice me.
How are you going to do that? Become a fly, I mean. That's essentially, like, just... How is this kid Danny's? I'm starting to wonder. Maybe he's Louis or something. No, Louis wouldn't do that to Danny. He's loyal to Danny.
Plus, he'd actually... Anthony would actually know common idioms like that.
Yeah. It's just... How is this... This is just... Anyways. But the episode ends sadly for Johnny and Miguel for the simple fact that Miguel tries to take on Kyler and his gang. Is not ready. And it's a confined space, so he can't really dodge or block too much. And he gets the snot beaten out of him. With Johnny heartbroken and discovering him beaten up. So, let's rate this episode. I'm going to say this episode's, I guess, a 2.3. It's a pretty good episode.
2.5. You've got some important events that happen that are a bit more low-key. So, in preparing it for long-term character development.
But Loki doesn't show up. Okay, I couldn't resist that joke. Because of Anthony, you get it?
Like, whatever.
Yeah. We also get, now that I think about it, Yasmin stepping up the bullying towards Aisha and Sam going along with it.
Mm-hmm.
Which... I don't think Danny, as a kid, would have tolerated that. He would not have tolerated that kind of bullying tactic. Because he did have a certain amount of honor and dignity.
And it looks
as
like...
a parent, I don't think Danny would tolerate it. But he's not allowed to parent. So...
Just looks like at some point he's going to explode.
Yeah. But he doesn't.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Putting his foot down to Amanda, dictating how things will be.
Basically, she's the same type of person as Sid. And even Kreese.
Danny's doing all the compromising.
Yeah, and he's compromised himself in a way out of a relationship. By basically turning himself into a doormat. So a tip, people, do not compromise as much as Danny. I'm not saying you don't compromise in a relationship. In a relationship, you will compromise. You will change to an extent who you are in a lot of things like that. That's natural and healthy. But you do not compromise to such an extent that you jeopardize the mental health of your kids and their actual education, and you don't compromise your mental health and whatnot. You need some self-respect, but you do need to understand compromise.
It's 50-50, or it should be.
Like, look at Yukie and Mr. Miyagi. I love that pairing.
Yeah.
That is relationship goals, to a large extent.
Danny and...
Kumiko, I guess. And even Johnny and Carmen are a good example of compromise. But this episode, we were once again harsh on Amanda because why not? Seems like it's our new hobby.
Well-deserved hobby.
Yeah, but overall, this show is good. For the most part, except for season 5, of course.
La la la, not listening.
The show ends at season 4. Anyways, don't forget to karate chop the like and subscribe button to stay tuned for the next episode.